Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
So earlier this week, you heard me talk about choices. And I warned you, you would hear a lot of evidence, you would hear a lot of voices, you would see a lot of footage, hear a lot of names. But I also told you, if you'll remember, that the name that you needed to focus on and the name that you needed to remember is Hernandez Govan. But most importantly, I told you needed to focus on the consequences of his choices. Hernandez Govan and the consequences of his choices. And the consequences. What were those consequences? Violence, death, and loss. And not just the violent death of a famous music artist, but the violent death of a human being, a person, someone whose life was marked with artistry, community, entrepreneurship. So let's take one last look at how that life ended. A life, ladies and gentlemen. But before I get into how much we've heard this week and what exactly we've heard this week, let's talk about the law, and let's talk about what the judge instructed you. Conspiracy to commit first-degree murder. That's the first count. In order for there to be a conspiracy to commit first-degree murder, there has to be four things. There has to be an agreement with one or more people to commit the offense of first-degree murder. There has to be, or number two, each of the parties to the conspiracy had the intent to commit the first-degree murder. 3, each party acting for the purpose of promoting or facilitating the commission of the offense of the first-degree murder agreed that one or more of them would engage in the conduct which constitutes the first-degree murder. And 4, one of the parties to the conspiracy committed an overt act in furtherance of the conspiracy. The two important things about this charge is an agreement and an overt act. And in the jury instructions, you heard that an overt act is done by one or more of the parties in order to carry out the intent of the conspiracy. And it must be a step toward the execution of the conspiracy. In first-degree murder cases, often enough, the overt act is the murder. Count number 2. First-degree murder. A definition of first-degree murder is the premeditated killing of another. Number 1. Someone unlawfully killed the victim. 2, they acted intentionally. And 3, the killing was premeditated. You heard in the jury instruction that in order for there to be intent, there has to be a conscious objective or a desire. You also heard about criminal responsibility. Criminal responsibility, that basically means that you don't have to be the person that pulls the trigger in order to be responsible for the first-degree murder. The jury instructions say that criminal responsibility is when someone acts with the intent to promote or assist the commission of the offense or to benefit from the proceeds or results of the offense. The defendant acts, solicits, directs, aids, or attempts to aid another person to commit the offense. Further, they don't have to be present when the offense is taking place. Encouragement of the offense is enough. So let's talk about what we heard this week. We heard first from Erica Thornton. She told you that she is the victim's sister. They were close. And the last time that she saw him was on FaceTime. The next thing she hears that her brother was taken from her. She told you about the person that she knew, the brother that she had, and the life that was lost. A life, ladies and gentlemen. We also heard from Raul Hopkins. He told you that he had been employed with Mr. Thornton for years as his security. He explained to you the tension between PRE and CMG. And he explained to you that CMG wanted Thornton to sign with them, but he didn't. And because of that, there's been tension. He talked about diss tracks. He talked about various acts of violence committed on Thornton. And he told you about CMG and their connections. Well, as you heard from the testimony this week, Hernandez Govan is affiliated with CMG. He has connections within CMG. CMG was in direct conflict with Thornton and the life and the legacy that he built. Govan had an in with CMG. Govan had a direct conflict with the life and the legacy that Thornton built. And then you heard from Cornelius Smith. And that's where it got interesting. He told you that he met Govan in 2021 through a friend named Bobby Carter. The relationship started out as transactional. Cornelius Smith had a pill problem. Govan provided the pills. But then one day, Govan asks him if he wants to make some money. Smith told you that, of course, he has a drug problem. He has 5 kids. He needed money. So, of course, he wants to make money. And he tells you about several discussions between Govan, himself, Justin Johnson, and Joke. He tells you that at one of those meetings, Govan told him that there were multiple bounties on PRE artists, including Mr. Thornton, but also Paper Route Woo. He told you that on one night, he was given guns by Govan. He was given guns by Govan to attempt a hit on Paper Route Woo. He told you that out of the multiple bounties on PRE artists, Thornton's was the highest. Thornton's was $100,000. So of course he jumped on the opportunity. And Smith told on himself. He told you everything. He told you chapter and verse, who was in the room and what was said. And if you're thinking about a conspiracy, who would you want to hear from the most? A co-conspirator. Someone that is in the room, someone who can tell you what happened, what was agreed to, what went on. So after he found out about what this bounty was, he talked about November. He talked about how him and Justin knew about a turkey drive that PRE hosts every November. He told you that there were a few days where they went hunting. They knew that there was going to be multiple days where the turkey drives were happening. On the 16th, him and Justin Johnson went out hunting. Wasn't successful. On the 17th, he told you that Justin picked him up from his father's house. He told you that when he picked him up from his father's house, Smith and Johnson went hunting again. And when they were at the intersection of Lamar and Airways, they saw Dolph's car drive past. Earlier this week, I told you that most Memphians know Adolph Thornton's car when they see it. And Cornelius Smith told you the same thing. They knew who it was when he drove past. So they followed the car. They followed the car all the way to Makita's, and at Makita's, they pulled around, parked the white Mercedes that they were in, got out, gunned down Adolph Thornton, and killed him. They got back in the white Mercedes, and they left, but not before Marcus Thornton shot Cornelius Smith. Smith also told you that they ditched the car. He told you that they ditched the car on Bradley Street. across the street from the defendant's home. He told you that once they left the car there, they went to Two-Lane Apartments. At Two-Lane Apartments, that's where they switched clothes, that's where they had their wound kits, and that's where Cornelius realized that he left his phone. He left his phone and he needed a ride. So he used his co-conspirator's phone, Justin Johnson, to contact his girlfriend to pick him up. And you heard that from Angela Arnold too. She told you that she got some communication from a phone number that she did not recognize. A phone number that was not her boyfriend's. It was not Cornelius's. He told her to pick her up, and she did. When she picked him up, he got inside the car. He told her that he had been hit. He told her what happened. And he told her that they killed Dolph. You also heard from Angela that he had previously told her that there was a hit on PRE artists, but she didn't believe him. But he told her. And he told her that there was a bounty. And when she picked him up that day, she learned that they had killed Dolph. They both testified that after they left the Two-Lane Apartments, they went to a gas station for Cornelius to buy some cigarettes. And after they left that gas station, they met up with Govan. They met up at the Pressure World. And at the Pressure World, Cornelius said that he got his phone back, and he got out the car. Well, first he got out the car. Then he went and talked to Govan, who was already outside the car. And he got his phone back and got back inside of Angela Arnold's car. Angela Arnold also testified that the same thing happened. She's never been to Pressure World before. She's driven past, but on this particular day, she pulled in. Cornelius got outside the car. Govan was waiting for him, and they went to the back and they talked. She didn't hear anything, but she saw the defendant there. And she knew that Cornelius had to get his phone. But then, Angela tells us, and she confirms what Cornelius already told you, that they had to get a car cover. She didn't know who the order came from, but she knew that they had to get she knew that they had to get a car cover. And Cornelius testified that he got the cash from Govan to get a car cover. So that's where they went. They got the car cover. But if you remember, Angela Arnold told us that there was some point where she dropped Cornelius off on Bradley Street for him to wipe down the car. She made a loop, she came back and she picked him up. Cornelius told you the same thing. He told you that he wiped down the car. One piece of information given by two different people saying the same thing. And then, if we're going back to what Cornelius told you, he told you that shortly before he was arrested, he ran into Hernandez Govan in the street. They parked their cars, they talked. Govan was worried that Smith didn't get any money. He told Smith, I'm gonna go to Prito. I'm going to make sure you get your money. Well, of course he wanted to make sure that Cornelius got his money because he had previously asked for a $10,000 cut. He wanted his money too. Angela Arnold told you the same thing. She told you that Cornelius told her about this meeting in the street. She told you that Govan told Cornelius that he was going to go get his money. Cornelius told you that on the day that he was arrested, he was buying cake and ice cream for his daughter on her birthday. He told you how he got arrested. and Angela Arnold told you the same thing. One story, two people who told you the same thing. And we also heard from Sergeant Dabney. He was the case officer. He testified that he and other officers found the white Mercedes in the back of 1174 Bradley, directly across the street from the defendant's home. He told you, or he described the description of the car. He went through slide by slide, picture by picture, and told you that this was the white Mercedes that was used in the homicide to kill Adolph Thornton Jr. And then we got to Sergeant Browning. He went back to August 13th. He told you about an attempted shooting or attempted murder on someone named Paper Route Wu. And remember, Cornelius already told you that Govan told him that there were multiple bounties on PRE artists, including Paper Route Wu, also known as Terrence Baker. On this date, 911 dispatch received multiple calls about shots being fired in the area of 3645 Allendale Road. This is the shooting that Cornelius was talking about. The shooting that happened because of the guns that Govan provided. And on this day, there were multiple calls from Hernandez Govan to Justin Johnson, another one of the conspirators. 12 calls, or 12 communications, between Hernandez Govan and Justin Johnson on the day of the Paper Route Wu shooting. 8 calls, or 8 communications between Hernandez Govan and Cornelius Smith on the date of this Paper Route Wu shooting. 4 calls between Hernandez Govan and Anthony Mims, otherwise known as Big Joke, the number 2 person at CMG, on the day of the Paper Route Wu shooting. And then we get to November. We're going to talk about the conspirator communications. Defense will have you believe that there was no communication between Hernandez Govan and the rest of the conspirators. Sergeant Browning testified that on November 2nd, 2021, there were 7 communications between Justin Johnson and the number for Hernandez Govan. On November 3rd, 7 communications between Justin Johnson and Hernandez Govan. 20 communications between Cornelius Smith and Hernandez Govan. On November 4th, 7 communications between Justin Johnson and Hernandez Govan. 2 communications between Cornelius Smith and Hernandez Govan. On November 5th, 1 communication between Justin Johnson and Hernandez Govan. 4 communications between Cornelius Smith and Hernandez Govan. Now as we get closer to the murder, November 6th, 4 communications between Cornelius Smith and Hernandez Govan. November 12th, 5 communications between Cornelius Smith and Hernandez Govan. November 15th, 2 days before the homicide, 2 communications between Cornelius Smith and Hernandez Govan. You heard it from defense that there was hardly any communication between Hernandez Govan and the conspirators immediately prior to the murder. But you see here that there was communication. November 17th, the day of the homicide. On this day, 17 communications between Hernandez Govan and Cornelius Smith. the person he chose to do a job. On November 17th, the day of the homicide, 15 communications between Justin Johnson and Hernandez Govan. The person Govan chose to do this job. And 3 communications from another number of Hernandez Govan, ending in 1460. Another thing about these call records is that it confirmed a lot of what Cornelius Smith told us. Cornelius Smith told us that he left his phone in the car on the day of the homicide. Well, the call records show that there are no outgoing communications from 12:04 hours to 14:36 hours, which would coincide with Cornelius Smith not having access to his phone during that time because he left it in the white Mercedes. These are surveillance footage that we've previously seen. Cornelius Smith told you chapter and verse that it was him and Justin Johnson that did this. He told you they entered into an agreement. He told you that the reason they entered into the agreement was because of the $100,000 bounty. These records show that Cornelius didn't have his phone. He told you that he needed Justin Johnson's phone to contact Angela. And he said that he used Justin Johnson's phone, as indicated by the records. This shows that an outgoing communication from Justin Johnson's phone to Angela Arnold's phone, given the address of the 2-lane apartments. And then he told you that he needed to get his phone back. Well, whose phone did he use? There's an outgoing communication from Angela Arnold's phone saying, "This Zebra, send me bruh number so I can get my phone," to Justin Johnson. And then they asked for Quest's number. And shortly after these text messages were sent, Angela Arnold and Cornelius Smith met Govan at the Pressure World. They told you that they went to AutoZone for a car cover. Well, the phone extractions say the same thing. There was a receipt from around that time from AutoZone, or at least it looked like it was from AutoZone. Further, Cornelius told you that he wanted his money. He needed his money. And that communication with Jook wasn't really a thing. He would use Govan as the go-between person to contact Jook. But he still needed his money. So he found a way to message Jook, and he told Jook, "What's up, big bruh? I'm trying to get with you. I'm Govan's little homie you met before. I've been trying to let you hear my music if you don't mind giving me a call." Govan's homie. Govan's chosen person for the job. Ladies and gentlemen, we went from this person, this life, to this. You heard from Dr. Scantleberry. 20 gunshot entrance wounds to Adolph Thornton's body. We went slide by slide, picture by picture, documenting the injuries that Adolph Thornton received on the day of the homicide. She told you about the manner of death, the cause of death. She went through his injuries, the remote bullets. She told you about the wound on his face. We went from this to this. The defense will try to tell you that the police officers didn't do a good job, that the investigation wasn't complete, but yet they put on an officer as their witness. It seems as if the investigation isn't good if it doesn't cater to Hernandez Govan. It seems as if the investigation isn't complete when it doesn't benefit the defense. You heard from Sergeant Browning that this was a two-part investigation and that he came and he started to get involved when Angela Arnold talked to officers about Hernandez Govan's involvement. Her interview was December 17, 2021, a month after the murder. It was a month in before they even realized that Hernandez Govan was involved. You also heard that Justin had access to Judd, and that Justin was communicating with other people when he was doing his own thing. But that doesn't take away from this conspiracy. That doesn't mean that this didn't happen. That doesn't mean that Govan is not involved. Govan already had Juke's contact information. He already had Justin Johnson's contact information. He already had Cornelius Smith's contact information. And if you look at the text messages that the defense entered into evidence, you see that there is communication with people that Hernandez Govan also communicates with, like Joshua Taylor. Defense will also tell you that the investigation wasn't complete because there were other people involved that weren't charged. Well, we heard from Sergeant Browning that this investigation is ongoing. By definition, a conspiracy is an ongoing crime that is continuous in nature. And sometimes you just don't have all you need to charge people. Sometimes people die. You can't indict people that aren't here anymore. And if all that isn't enough, you heard from someone that was in the room when it happened. You heard Cornelius Smith. You saw the videos. You heard the testimony of Angela Arnold and Sergeant Browning that support what he's telling you. Defense introduced a video of Cornelius Smith on December 9th, 2021, the day that he got arrested. He told you himself he was a pillhead. He was high. And you saw that in the video. Even Angela Arnold told you that the day that he got arrested, when she was with him, he had taken some pain medication. And ladies and gentlemen, remember the call records. These communications don't lie. They coincided with dates of importance. The week of the turkey drive, August 13th, the shooting on Paper Route Woo. They don't lie, ladies and gentlemen. So let's get into the law one more time. Conspiracy to commit first-degree murder. The defendant entered into an agreement. What is the agreement? What is the agreement? The agreement is if you kill Dolph, you get $100,000. You need one or more people to be a participant in that agreement. You heard from one of them, Cornelius Smith. We know there's Justin Johnson, and there's Hernandez Govan. There is an agreement. And what also do you need? You need an overt act. Earlier I told you that an overt act in the murder case is often the murder. Well, you saw videos of that. You heard the defendant, you heard the shooter, Cornelius Smith, testify that he killed Adolph Thornton Jr. For first-degree murder, it has to be a premeditated killing of another. When we talk about premeditation, we know that there's no timeline on premeditation. It could be months, it could be weeks, it could be days, it could be a few minutes. All you have to do is have time to reflect. All you have to do is have time to think about what you're doing. Well, they had plenty of time. Cornelius said that they talked about this well before this murder. And we saw that the hit on Paper Route Woo was on August 13th. There was plenty of time to think and reflect about this murder. And as you saw from the video, it happened. For criminal responsibility, all you have to do is you have to have an act with the intent to promote or assist the commission of the offense or to benefit in the proceeds or the results of the offense. Smith told you Govan wanted his cut. He wanted $10,000 from Justin Johnson's cut and from Cornelius Smith's cut. That sounds like proceeds. Further, you don't have to be there when the trigger is pulled. You saw the video, you know that Hernandez Govan wasn't there, but that doesn't mean that he is not responsible for ending this life. Ladies and gentlemen, the state's burden is reasonable doubt. You heard in the jury instructions that reasonable doubt means moral certainty. You have to be certain for every element of the offense. That's my job. Certainty means that you can sleep easy at night knowing the decision that you made. It's not beyond a shadow of a doubt. It's not 100% certainty. It's not beyond all doubt. It's beyond a reasonable doubt. That is the standard. Once you've looked and reviewed all of the evidence, all of the photos, all of the videos and testimony that you've heard this week, it is the state's position that we have fulfilled our burden. We ask that you, the jury, make a choice. We ask that you make a choice to hold the defendant, Hernandez Govan, responsible for his actions. We ask that you find him guilty of first-degree murder and conspiracy to commit first-degree murder. Thank you.
We can take a break, Your Honor, just so I can get set up.